Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have about your health and fitness goals. So today, I'm actually inside. I don't know why I'm decided to be inside, because it's beautiful out today. And of course, I take every opportunity to be outside if I possibly can. But I have a really great topic for you today. I actually had this requested by one of my clients, and actually she knows a little bit about it, but she wanted me to explain just because it actually has been really interesting to look back through history and see how many people at this point have depression and anxiety issues. And I'm going to approach this twofold today because the whole topic is how does sugar contribute to depression? And of course, with this pandemic going on, we're all inside. I think there's higher issues of depression considering there's not a lot of outlet at this point, especially those of us that deem the gym as our sanctuary. It's really tough to not be able to go and do the things that we love to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the biology of this works in order for you to understand what's happening. And so you can kind of, obviously it's up to you. Like, it's your choice as to, hopefully that remains one of our freedoms here, since some of them are being taken away at the moment, that, we get to choose how we treat our body. But the problem is, it is completely unfortunate that it takes a whole pandemic to show us what a sick country we really are when it comes to our health, especially nutrition-wise. Hey, Mel. So let's talk about it. And if you have questions, please ask, because of course, if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, but we'll find out, because that's how I roll. All right, so let's talk about the biology of how sugar works. And of course, as you know, as a country, the United States tends to overconsume sugar like crazy, and it's completely unfortunate. I'm very frustrated by the standard American diet because unfortunate, and as I've been talking about for the last few weeks, as we've been dealing with the situation, that sugar obviously suppresses your immune system. So if there's one thing that you want to do besides wear a mask and all these things that we're being asked to do, which I understand, but the one thing that you should be able to do for your health, and you have to make the choice, is to cut out the junk. I mean, it's not doing any benefits. You're just going to put on unwanted weight and really, cause your body to be insulin resistant. So there's some definite downsides, but there's also a whole side of biology that actually can show you how it causes depression, or at least contributes to it. Unfortunately, guys, this is more prevalent for you, but for women, of course, we have hormones that change throughout the month according to what our cycle's doing, and it can also cause issues with that as well. And so, of course, if you're really frustrated and you're feeling, we all feel low sometimes, but if you're feeling unreasonably low, of course, like I said, I know that just being cooped up inside quite a bit is a huge portion of that. But if you are finding that you're eating excess quarantine snacks, the worst thing that you can eat is something that has sugar, vegetable oil, trans fat, a combination of the absolutely horrible for you if you want to talk about health and nutrition. So we're going to approach this in two ways: how sugar messes up the hormones and basically disrupts your body's ability to create serotonin and dopamine on its own. And then we're going to actually also approach it from the fact that sugar displaces healthier foods. Junk food and processed food displaces healthier foods. Thereby, you're not eating the correct ingredients in order to support your body's ability to make those neurotransmitters. So let's start by the fact that we know that as Americans, we overconsume sugar. It's prevalent, it's cheap. Did a thing not too long ago that salt isn't technically really the problem. It's the wrong crystal. Sugar is actually a problem. And the more that we, if you're really listening to it, I know there's a lot of misinformation out there and there's a lot of conflicting information, and that's very, very frustrating because unfortunately, nutrition is one of those places where science is not 100%. Part of it is just because you can't really get good testing because some of it would be unethical to put people on certain types of diets that we know are actually going to be a problem to people's health. So that is part of it. But unfortunately, excess sugar. Now, I know that I'm saying excess sugar. Our body does use some glucose, but the problem is, you don't realize until you start tracking how much sugar is in the most interesting things you wouldn't think. Ketchup, salad dressings, bread, right? I find it really funny that people are like, oh, I don't eat sugar. And I'm like, yeah, I just saw your tracking of your food. You're eating a lot of sugar. What do you think carbohydrates turn to in your body? Your body breaks them down and uses them as glucose. Now, you need some carbohydrates, and we'll talk about that towards the end. But unfortunately, most of it get way more than we need. Now remember that your body cannot burn fat in the presence of insulin, and insulin is what your body produces in order to deal with the sugar intake or the carbohydrate intake. Whichever you choose, it's going to turn to glucose anyway. So keep in mind that when I'm talking about excess, I'm talking about probably what most of us are eating anyway is the problem. But unfortunately, the overconsumption of sugar actually triggers imbalances in certain brain chemicals that we have. Now, we talk about the fact that sugar is addicting because it lights up the same part of the brain as cocaine. It's a true fact. Unfortunately, you eat it, you feel real great for a minute because of course it releases dopamine, but then within an hour or so it runs out. We do this with our blood sugar, and then we feel like we need more, right? So unfortunately, sugar impacts dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that fuels the brain's reward system. So again, just like cocaine, the research shows, that it's unfortunate part of it. And of course, since addiction and mood disorders are closely associated, it may be, I think so, that sugar plays a role similar to cocaine in powering the mood roller coaster. So doesn't that make sense? Somebody who, you eat something, it tastes good, you feel great for a moment, then it drops you back down, you have to eat more, it tastes good, you feel good for a minute. Sounds a little bit like drug addiction, doesn't it? And really, sugar is addicting. For anyone who's ever tried to quit cold turkey off of sugar, there are immense withdrawals. And I can tell you from experience on that I cut out sugar and I get headaches, I get brain fog, I get fatigue, I get shaky a little bit because of course then your blood sugar is low. So between that point of your body switching over to other fuel sources, you feel miserable, right? Anybody who's ever tried keto, goes through the keto flu, kind of knows how that feels. There's ways around that, by the way. But I'm not a huge proponent of keto. So keep that in mind, that it's really interesting how the body treats sugar a lot like it would treat other drugs. Just is what it is, guys. So, when it does that, without the sugar, you tend to be, first of all, you don't have the serotonin release. And so you tend to feel very, very low. So, and after doing that over and over and over again, your body can actually run out of the ability to produce that serotonin or that dopamine quick enough. And of course, then you don't get the same high. Wow, sounds like drugs to me. Sugar also it's been known that it creates cellular inflammation, which of course more evidence is revealing that it is also a likely culprit in depression. So again, sugar itself can cause your body's inability to make the neurotransmitters, right? Because of the ability, it's already basically making us run out. Okay, so let's also talk about the part where sugar also displaces healthier foods. So I've had a lot of people come to me and they're like, look, I don't like vegetables. And I'm like, well, first of all, it's because you eat so much highly processed, or we call it ultra processed food, that your taste buds have changed. And of course, they make it that way. They study, they research, they make it so that you become addicted to their food. This is the food industry. So you'll have to come back and buy more, right? If you think about the Doritos slogan, I bet you can't eat just one. Is that Doritos or is that Lay's? I don't care either way. It's still a chip. And it's still junk. I don't even care if you bake it. It's still a carbohydrate. It's still processed. It's still not good for you. So if you think about the fact that the more of that you eat, the more you crave that, then you don't tend to eat the healthier stuff, the vitamins, the minerals, the nutrient-dense food, hence fruits and vegetables. So again, when you don't eat that, you're not providing your body the ingredients it needs in order to make those neurotransmitters. Let's talk about basics. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you can tune me out for a second. But for those of you that know anything about nutrition, we're talking about amino acids, vitamin B, omega-3s, and magnesium. Those are some really important vitamins and minerals that we need in order to make those neurotransmitters that if we're not eating healthy enough. Now, let me really quickly say, yeah, you can take some supplements, and if you're really super low, it's an option. Here's the problem. Your body does not process synthetic nutrients the same. That's why when something says that it's been enriched with, I roll my eyes every time, because it's not the same. Your body breaks down and uses those nutrients in real food better than it does in synthetic supplemental vitamins. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take the vitamins. I'm just saying you're better off to actually eat the nutrients. That's why when I work with somebody who is new to eating healthy, they're like, well, what supplements do I need to take? And I'm like, you need to eat real food. That's what you need to do. The majority of your nutrients need to come from real food, not from trying to cheat the system. So again, keep in mind that if you're eating, nuts and spinach and avocados, you're getting magnesium. You can get all of those foods or those vitamins through healthy food. Same thing with things like PMS. If you're having hormonal roller coasters in general, you're probably just not getting the right amount of the nutrients. It's definitely a deficiency. And if you think about it, not just depression, we're even talking mental illness. The research now shows that the biggest portion and issue for mental illness is a lack of certain vitamins and minerals, because of course we don't eat them anymore. Our food over the last 50 years has changed so incredibly much that most of us just eat processed food. It's nutritionally void of what we need, and so we don't get those vitamins and minerals that we need to function efficiently, and then we can't figure out why we have all this incidence of disease, right? That, not enough sleep. I posted on that today. So if you don't ingest the right ingredients that build and support those neurochemicals, the result is, or those neurotransmitters, the result is mental illness. So again, really think about it. That is a huge part of it. So if you're stuck at home, and I know, like I said, I've seen the shelves, the things that are missing are pasta, jarred stuff. And while I think it's important to have those things on hand, and for the fact that if you can't make it to the store, you have something that's shelf stable, that should not be the predominant part of your nutrition plan. If you can get the fresh produce, proteins, that's what you need to be doing. Again, be prepared for the rainy day, but eat for optimal health. That's super important. Now, let me just really quickly, I want to take a moment to talk about very, very low carbohydrate diets. Now, there's also a problem with that. Now, in certain instances, that is completely appropriate. If you have a lot of fat on your body, you have a lot of stored energy, you need to teach your body to be fat adapted, or how to utilize those stores of fat in order to have energy. The problem being is that there are certain neurochemicals or neurotransmitters that are triggered by carbohydrate-dense foods, right? By that macro. The problem is, we're not talking about Pop-Tarts. Like, don't eat a Pop-Tart and say, well, I'm eating this because it gives me tryptophan and I need it, or serotonin. Because while insulin does do that, that still doesn't make that a healthy product. We're talking about eat complex carbohydrates, like sweet potatoes. There's some grains, grains, I'm not a huge fan of grains because of course it tends to be processed and they're not the same grains that our ancestors had. But it can be fruits, vegetables are carbohydrates, but they're so nutrient dense, the sugar does not hit your bloodstream the same as it would, say, that Pop-Tart. So again, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the vitamins and minerals, you're getting the carbohydrates that your body needs in order to produce those neurotransmitters and to instigate that insulin release, to utilize those, but you're not eating crap. Simply put, is that easy enough for you? I know, sometimes I have no filter and then you're like, what is she talking about? Just understand that I'm not a huge fan of keto for the most part. You just need to be eating the right foods. If you didn't read I have an ebook, and all you have to do is go to my website and you can actually download it for free. It's basically called 1200 Calorie Diets and Other BS, because I just don't believe in low calorie and I don't believe in no carbohydrates. You need a certain amount of carbohydrates. And unfortunately, when people tend to go on a keto diet, they tend to not eat any fruit because that can push you out of ketosis, and they eat virtually no vegetables, which I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's a balance. There's a balance there that should be reached. So keep that in mind. If you have questions on this, there's some really good articles online that talk about how this works. I try to keep it as simple as possible so that it makes sense to you. But just understand that, again, I have a sweet tooth. So I'm not saying don't ever eat the M&Ms or the Oreos like I posted today in my picture. Those are not mine, by the way. What I'm saying is if you were eating that as a regular part of your diet, it can be contributing to the fact that you might feel more depressed than normal. Again, I know part of it's just the fact that we're being kept indoors. Some of us can't work right now. That's frustrating on my part. I want to go back to work. I love my clients. I love what I do. So I'm highly frustrated in the situation. But I also, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into any politics whatsoever. So hopefully that made some sense to you. You guys just eat healthy. That's all I am imploring you is eat healthier, eat better. The one thing this should have taught us is that self-care is so important, and part of that is filling your body full of the ingredients and the nutrition that it really needs to be optimal. So have an incredible day, you guys. Hang in there, do what you can do, and stay healthy, my friends.